Johnny Depp once said, something that made an entire room go quiet, not because it was dramatic, but because it was so honest and sad. People expected a big statement from a Hollywood star, but what he said was quiet, simple, and really painful to hear. He didn't talk about being famous, having money, or any drama. He talked about love, but not the perfect kind we see in movies. He talked about love that hurts, love that leaves scars that even success can't fix. Here's a man who has everything people wish for. So why would he say love hurts more than anything else? What pain is hiding behind those words? What did he experience, feel, and lose that made him talk like someone who survived the deepest heartbreak? That one confession made the world stop and listen, not to a movie star, but to a broken person still brave enough to talk about love. To the world, Johnny Depp is a legend, a man with famous roles, fancy events, camera flashes, and millions of fans shouting his name. People see the cool sunglasses, the confident walk, the fun interviews, the charming smile. They see success turned into a person. But what they don't see is what happens when the cameras turn off. Because fame is a weird trick. It makes the world think that someone loved by millions could never feel alone. It makes people believe that cheering crowds can replace real love, that money can fix emotional pain, and that being popular means being happy. But behind every bright light, there's darkness, and Johnny has lived in that darkness more times than people realize. There are nights when he sits in a room full of awards, and yet it feels like he has nothing. Not because he doesn't have things, but because what he really wanted could never be bought. The world claps when he acts, but no one sees the silence he goes home to. Everyone thinks that being loved in movies means being loved in real life. But that's the biggest lie AIM tells. Johnny once hinted that the loneliest place in the world is inside a lonely person who pretends everything is fine. He learned to smile perfectly for cameras, even when his eyes looked tired. He spoke nicely during interviews, even when his voice carried hidden sadness. And that's the strange part. People loved his characters, but very few stopped to see the real man behind them. There's a big difference between being seen and being understood. And for years, Johnny was seen by millions, but understood by no one. He once said in a quiet moment away from reporters, people think clapping means love, but clapping disappears. Love doesn't. That line wasn't from a script. It wasn't part of a movie. It came from a deep place inside him that few people ever get to see. A place made of memories he doesn't talk about, names he doesn't say anymore, and a version of himself he used to believe in. Because behind every fancy photograph, there are hidden moments, like the pauses between his smiles, the way he breathes out before answering a question, the slight shake in his voice when love gets mentioned. These aren't signs of weakness. They are quiet signs of a man who felt too much and said too little. To everyone else, he's a star. To himself, on some days, he's just a man trying to understand why giving love feels like losing a part of himself each time. That's the real Johnny, not the one Hollywood created, but the one life shaped through pain, love, and quietly pretending everything is okay. Love is already hard for regular people, but for someone like Johnny Depp, love isn't just a feeling anymore. It becomes news that everyone reads, every smile he shares, every look he gives, every sweet moment. It doesn't stay private. It becomes content. It becomes entertainment. And that's when love starts to hurt. Imagine trying to love someone, but every fight becomes gossip everyone talks about. Imagine try to fix something fragile, but the world keeps ripping it apart just for attention. For Johnny, love was never just between two hearts. There were cameras in the room, even when no real cameras were there. There were millions of strangers involved in moments that should have stayed between two people. People often dream about dating someone famous, but what they don't understand is this: a love that lives in the spotlight slowly forgets how to live in the dark. Real love grows in quiet moments, private laughs, real tears, fights no one else hears, forgiveness no one else sees. But when you're famous, even those private moments aren't really yours. Johnny once said in a soft voice during an interview, "When you love in public, you don't get to heal in private." Those words held a truth only a few people understood. When normal couples fight, they get time to think, to cry, to figure things out. But when he fought with someone he loved, people posted it online, argued about it like a game, created jokes, wrote theories, and turned heartbreak into something everyone talked about. And the worst part, people start picking sides in a love story they were never part of. Suddenly, love stops being love. It becomes a court case, a war, a stage where you have to prove again and again. I loved honestly, but true love shouldn't have to be proven. True love should feel like home, not a test. Johnny once believed that being famous meant he could protect the people he loved. But fame isn't protection. It's a magnifying glass. It makes every mistake look bigger and every wound feel deeper. Love that should have healed him instead turned into something that tested him. There were days when he was smiling for cameras while his heart was quietly breaking. There were nights when the world thought he was strong, while he felt like a weak version of himself, holding memories like glass, easily broken, impossible to put back together. The same way, people think the hardest part of love is losing someone. But according to Johnny, the hardest part is watching love change under pressure, watching it turn into something you don't recognize because too many eyes are watching. Love is supposed to be a safe place, but for him, it became a stage with no way out. And this is a quiet pain no one saw, not in the magazines, not in the headlines, not in the interviews. Because love for Johnny Depp was never just personal. It was owned by the public. And when something as delicate as love is left in the hands of the public, it rarely survives without damage. There's a strange idea. The world believes that success can fix everything. That if you have money, admiration, and fame, heartbreak shouldn't hurt as much. That emotional pain somehow gets lighter when your name shines in bright lights. But Johnny Depp's life proves that pain doesn't care about status. Heartbreak doesn't ask how famous you are. It just comes in, settles in your chest, and slowly makes itself at home. People look at him and see confidence, talent, charm, but they don't see the silent moments, the kind where he stares at a phone screen, wondering whether to send a message he will never actually send. They don't see the times he starts writing something in a note, then deletes it because some words are too heavy to share. That's the thing about heartbreak. It doesn't always show up as crying. Sometimes it shows up as silence. Johnny once said something that touched millions. Fame gives you everything except the one thing you actually want when your heart is breaking. Someone who understands without asking a single question. It wasn't just a line. It was an emotional confession. A man can sign autographs for hours but still feel like he has no one to call when the world goes quiet. 1,000 fan messages can't replace one. Really, you okay from the right person? People think celebrities are surrounded by love, but what they don't know is that attention isn't affection. Clapping isn't comfort. Being trending isn't healing. A million eyes watching you still doesn't mean that one heart truly sees you. In interviews, Johnny smiles, but look closely. Somewhere between his laughter, there's a pause, a small change in his voice. That's where the emotional scar lives, in the spaces between his words. Maybe that's why his acting feels so real, because he doesn't just act out pain, he remembers it. Fame is loud. Heartbreak is quiet, and quiet things always hurt deeper. Behind closed doors, Heartbreak speaks in a softer voice. What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? How do you move on when love still lives inside you? These are questions that don't make headlines. These are the questions that keep a person awake at 3 o'clock in the morning, even when the world thinks they're living a dream. For Johnny, every heartbreak left behind something invisible, a small scar that no camera could capture, scars that don't bleed anymore but hurt when touched by memories. Because heartbreak doesn't end the day love ends. Heartbreak ends the day you stop waiting for it to return. And letting go is sometimes harder than loving. Maybe that's why his words touch people so deeply. He didn't talk like a superstar. He talked like a regular person who had loved honestly and lost painfully. That honesty connected to millions, not because they saw his life, but because they saw their own pain reflected in his. And that's the biggest truth he ever showed without actually saying it. Fame can put your name in lights, but it can't light up the parts of your soul that grief has darkened. And heartbreak doesn't care about glamour. It only understands two things: the love that was given and the love that was lost. Everything else is just noise. When Johnny Depp talked about love, people expected passion, romance, Hollywood magic. But instead, what came out of his mouth was something painfully real. He said that love only hurts when it's real. Fake love doesn't leave scars. Temporary love doesn't shake your world. Only the love that touches your soul has the power to break it. 2. Johnny, love was never about being perfect. He never believed love was supposed to be flawless. He believed it was supposed to be honest. And honesty is where the pain begins. Because to love someone honestly is to hand them something dangerous, your vulnerability. It's to give them the power to hurt you while praying they never use it. But life doesn't always follow our prayers. Love doesn't hurt. Expectations do. Memories do. Staying when you should walk away. That hurts the most. When he said this, he wasn't blaming love. He was blaming the things humans put around love. Ego, silence, pride, fear. Those are the sharp edges that cut deeper than heartbreak itself. Johnny believed that heartbreak doesn't start the day someone leaves. It starts the day love stops feeling safe. The day laughter turns into careful talking. The day goodnight feels like goodbye. That's the kind of pain he talked about. Not loud pain, but soft, heavy pain, the kind that stays. And maybe that's why his confession shocked people. Because when he spoke, he wasn't accusing anyone. He wasn't trying to be dramatic. He was simply saying something we all secretly know, but rarely admit. To love deeply is to accept that pain will probably come. But here's the part people didn't expect. He didn't say this with anger. He said it with understanding, because to him, love hurting doesn't mean love failed. It simply means love mattered. Pain isn't the enemy of love. Not caring is a person can survive being hated, but being forgotten by someone you loved, that's a different kind of heartbreak. That's the hurt Johnny talked about. The kind that makes your chest feel heavy, even when you're smiling. The kind that makes certain songs feel unsafe to listen to. The kind that turns simple things like a perfume smell or familiar street into reminders of a life that could have been. He believed love hurts because love changes you. After you love someone deeply, you never go back to the same version of yourself. A part of you always stays where love once was. That's what makes moving on so hard. You don't just lose a person, you lose the version of yourself that only existed next to them. And that's something success can never fix. No award, no clapping, no fame can fill the quiet space left behind when love turns into a memory. People say time heals everything, he said once. But time doesn't heal it, teaches you how to carry it. He didn't talk like a movie star saying a line. He talked like a man who had felt love in its most beautiful form and survived love in its most painful one. And maybe That's the final truth he wanted the world to understand. Love hurts not because it's wrong, but because it's real, and real things leave marks. There are moments in life when words don't just get spoken. They fall into the room like a sudden silence, the kind of silence that makes people sit still, not because they were told to, but because they feel something changing. That's what happened when Johnny Depp talked about love, pain, and expectations. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like a play. It was honest. And that's why it shook people more than any headline ever could. In that moment, people didn't see Jack Sparrow. They didn't see the Hollywood icon, the rebel artist, the legend in rings and leather. They saw a man who had been loved, betrayed, adored, judged, celebrated, and broken, all in front of the world. But the world had never stopped long enough to ask him how it felt. When he paused before speaking, you could sense something different. He wasn't looking for words. He was gathering strength, and then he said in that quiet tone that carried more weight than a shout ever could. People think heartbreak looks dramatic, but most of the time it's just quiet. That line didn't go viral because it was clever. It went viral because people felt their own pain in his voice. Comments flooded in not just from fans, but from people who had never met him, yet suddenly felt like they understood him. I've never related to a celebrity before until this. He just explained the pain I could never put into words. Isn't it strange how someone so admired can still talk like someone who's been forgotten? The internet didn't see a superstar in that moment. They saw themselves because everyone at some point has known what it feels like to carry pain quietly, to pretend they're okay so the world doesn't ask too many questions, to laugh in public and fall apart in private. Johnny's confession became a mirror showing people that even someone adored by millions could feel unseen in love. That's the moment the audience changed emotionally. They weren't just listening anymore. They were witnesses. Witnesses to a man who had lived through extreme love and extreme loss and still spoke gently about both. People started to understand something important. Pain doesn't make you weak. Pain makes you real. And that's what they saw. A real man, not a role. A real heart, not a character. Story. A confession, not a performance. And maybe that's why the air in that room felt different. Like grief had been acknowledged, not hidden. Like love had been honored even through pain. Like hearts across the world suddenly breathed out and whispered. Finally, someone said it. It wasn't the words that made that moment powerful. It was the vulnerability behind them. Johnny Depp did something few famous people ever do. He didn't protect his image. He protected the truth. And that truth landed with a weight that could be felt across screens, across timelines, across hearts. That's the moment fans stopped looking at him and started feeling with him. Love by itself is gentle, pure, quiet. It doesn't come to destroy. It comes to connect. But humans, we make it complicated. We take something simple and make it heavy. We add fear, pride, jealousy, assumptions, and unspoken promises. We start expecting love to heal every wound, understand every silence, forgive every moment of distance without us ever saying a word. And that's where heartbreak is born. Johnny Depp's final thought was not bitter. He wasn't warning people to avoid love. He was reminding them to understand love before treating it like a battlefield. Love doesn't break you. Expectations do. Love is just love, but what we expected it to fix.